You're listening to Little Green Cheese, Season 2, Episode 1. Well, hi there everyone, I'm Gavin Weber and this podcast is where you can learn about cheese making at home. Well, I hope you've had a lovely break over the summer holidays, summer holidays here in Australia and the winter holidays there in the Northern Hemisphere. Over the break, I've been very busy, not so much cheese making, but setting up an online store. Now, unfortunately, the online store is only available to residents of Australia because I can't ship the cheese cultures and the like overseas due to their perishable nature. However, I know that I have a lot of Australian listeners to the Little Green Cheese podcast and they are more than welcome to pop over. They can have a look. They can go through littlegreencheese.com or they can go directly to littlegreenworkshops.com.au and there's a whole cheese making section there with various cheese making kits and ingredients and equipment. So that's what I have been doing. I actually set up the e-commerce part of the whole store. I set up the back end and my lovely wife Kim photographed all of the kits and all the ingredients and did the lovely pictures and helped me do the design. And I did all the IT work because that's my day job. I'm not a cheese maker officially. I am a home cheese maker. I'm a hobbyist. And I just know a fair bit of stuff about cheese, which is great. One of the reasons, I suppose, is because I grew up on a dairy farm. Not that we made a lot of cheese there. Anyway, so as you noticed at the start of the episode, this is Season 2. So we've got 35 episodes in the can from Season 1. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to plan to do an episode once a fortnight. If I have more time and we have lots of questions, and either via email or voicemail, then I will do a show once a week. But at the moment, I found that at the end of Season 1, I was struggling to get questions from the audience that I could answer via the podcast. So if you've got lots of questions, I don't mind if they've been asked before. This is a new season. We can start afresh. I don't mind that at all. And I dare say all you curd nerds out there don't mind either. So that'll be good fun. Now, it's going to be the same sort of format as before. We're going to have a topic of the episode where I talk a little bit about cheese making in general and something specific. Topics we've covered in the past are things like salt, cultures, what to do with your milk, how to get the best milk, how to get your curds set, all those sort of basic questions that people will have. So I'll cover a topic for about 10 minutes. Then I'll find a news clip and I'll play a news clip and we'll have a little bit of a chat about that. Then I'll get stuck into voicemails and we've got a few this week, but I'll talk about that in a minute. So to leave me a voicemail, you can go to littlegreencheese.com and on the right-hand side there is a widget that you can leave a voicemail. And most computers these days have a microphone built in. Usually they're built into the webcam or you've got a headset, one of those mics you use for Skype or stuff like that. And leave a message, leave a question, or just leave a thanks, or I don't mind either way. I'd love to hear from everybody out there that listen to the Little Green Cheese podcast. So leave a voicemail. Voicemails are great. Also, you can, via the site, littlegreencheese.com, you can leave an email. So leave an email there. I've got an email address on the side. And if you have a question, even if it's a comment on a blog post or what have you, I will answer your questions and attempt to give you an answer that you can that will help you become a better cheese maker at home. So that's what we're going to get stuck into. So today I'm going to skip all that stuff I just said that we're going to do. And I've got 4 voicemails and I've got 12 emails. So it's going to be quite a show. Hopefully I'll be able to fit it in within the 30-minute mark so you can all go home on time. So let's get stuck into the first few questions. So the first voicemail is from Colins. So let's just play that.
Hello, Gavin. I've been watching Little Green Cheese for some considerable time now, and it's very, very interesting. I have learnt a lot. I've been making cheese for about 5 or 6 years, but you just never stop learning, do you? One question that I do have currently is the picture of Deb's calf filly at 1 week of age. The cheese is sitting on a large plastic draining mat. Where are they available from? Because there is none in New Zealand that I can find. I can find small ones, but no large ones, like the one in the picture. If you could reply to this, I would appreciate that. Thanks. We'll be in touch some more. Bye.
Well, thanks very much, Colin. The mat that I've seen, I actually have seen some here in Australia. I don't personally have some in our store, but that looks like it's out of the bottom. I'm just looking at Deb's Kafili right now, and that looks like it's the bottom of a Tupperware container. I've got a container like that that I use for the same sort of thing. It has a rack on the bottom. I think they're used for keeping salads fresh, like lettuces and stuff like that. And I think that's all that is. But I do know of a few. What I'll do, I will put a link in the show notes to where people can get those sorts of mats. Though I've actually seen some thinner ones, which have a nice weave to them, and they're high density polyethylene. So I think it's plastic number 2, which is food safe. So I will put those in the show notes, and hopefully, Colin, that's answered your question. And thanks for sending one in. So the next one is from Sam.
Hi, I like your website. I was looking at the cheese press. I may make one myself. I'll send it to you if I do. Thanks.
Well, thanks, Sam. Very quiet there, Sam. You said you were going to make a cheese press and you were going to send me a copy of a picture. I never saw one. So just reaching out, if Sam is a listener, then please send through a picture of the cheese press that you've made. That would be lovely. Right, the next question is from, I think, Cherie. I hope I didn't get that wrong. Let's play it.
Hello, Gavin. My name is Cherie, and I'm from Woodruff, South Carolina. And I just wanted to let you know that I've enjoyed your videos. I've just gone through a couple of them, and I look forward to seeing listening and watching the rest. I've been interested in making cheese for quite some time, and you make it very simple to follow, and I enjoy the accent, of course. And thank you for making them. And have a good day. Oh, and a Happy New Year.
Well, thanks very much, Cherie. I really appreciate that. I hope your cheese making is working out, and you're making some lovely creations there over in the US. And lucky last voicemail is from Gabriel.
Hi, Gavin. My name is Gabriel. I live in Thailand, and I really enjoy your videos on, I've enjoyed your video on making cream cheese. I tried to make sour cream, and I bought the culture from, I think, New England Cheese Company, and I heated my raw milk up to 85 degrees Fahrenheit, and I left it out. I rehydrated and I stirred and I let it out stay for overnight. But unfortunately, it seems to be that the sour cream the curd was a bit too runny after about 24 hours. I then decided that maybe it was a little bit too cold. The room temperature was a bit too cold, and I put it in a yogurt thermo thing, that heats up the yogurt, and then I noticed a few hours later the curds and the whey were completely separated in the little jars inside of that little the thing, and still the sour cream didn't have that pungent taste. Nor was the curd very solid. So I guess to round it up is, how do we make good sour cream from raw milk culture? Not putting vinegar. I don't know. Maybe it's right to put vinegar into milk and then that's how it's called sour cream. But I like to make things from scratch as possible, and I guess as without adding ingredients like vinegar to pasteurized milk and stuff like that. I don't know, maybe it's the right way or the wrong way, but anyway, I enjoy your videos, so I would like to see your video on sour cream. You may have one up already, and if you do, I'll watch it, and I enjoy your videos. Thank you very much. Bye.
Well, thanks, Gabriel. Appreciate it. Sour cream is pretty simple to make. What I will do is I will record a video of how to make sour cream. I haven't made some for quite a while, and I've only just perfected the technique once. I've made it twice, but you make a fair bit of it. Unfortunately, we had so much of it that I had to give it away to the chickens because it was starting to get a little bit too sour for me. But we did use a fair bit of it, but you can only use so much sour cream, I suppose. But yeah, my promise to you is that I will make a sour cream video. There's a couple of videos that I've got in the pipeline that I am planning to make. One is quark, which can also be made with yogurt. So this is a culture that you put into a bottle, and then you leave it overnight in a warm place. And very similar to sour cream, and basically you strain that through cheesecloth. I know with sour cream you probably don't have to. I certainly haven't in the past, but what I'll do, I'll make a quark one as well. I'm also thinking of a Leicester cheese. I found a recipe for Leicester that's not in my cheese book and not in any others that I could find either. So I'm going to try and make a Leicester as well. I'm just waiting for the weather to cool down a little bit. It's still quite warm here in Australia, but as soon as we get a few cool weekends and we're not teaching workshops, then I will certainly get stuck into making a few more cheese-making videos. Thanks very much, Gabriel, and thanks very much to everybody who left a voicemail over the break. It's fantastic. Now, don't forget, you can leave a voicemail too. All you have to do is go to littlegreencheese.com, go to the right-hand sidebar, and you'll see that there is a speak pipe widget that you can simply record through any microphone on your PC or laptop or iPad or iPhone. I think there's even an app you can download and you can record it there as well. So leave a voicemail. I love hearing them from all parts of the world, and I love replying back to them as well. Right, so let's get on to this mountain of email that we have. Let me just try and find the first one. I've got heaps of them here. Okay, the first one, and this is in no date order. So this is emails starting after the last episode in November last year. So here's the first one. This one's from Lord Voldemort, Harry Potter's friend, obviously. Hi, Gavin. Love your site, mate. I'm in the UK near Manchester, and I'm just about to start with cheese making. It has come about mostly because I've always fancied doing it and then been further inspired by your YouTube videos. So seeing I love both Stilton and Parmesan, although they are not the easiest of first cheeses, I still thought I would make a start on them. I wonder, when you say about maturing Stilton in the ordinary fridge at 4 degrees Celsius, will that be okay for Parmesan as well? Also, do you mean ordinary by the household fridge? So meaning to just bung it in with the rest of the family food, sausages, milk, etc. I will eventually get around to having a separate fridge set up, but not to begin with. Well, thank you, Lord Voldemort. Don't know your real name, but it'd be lovely to know that. Yes, you can start off using the ordinary fridge. I don't recommend it, particularly for Parmesan. For mould-ripened cheeses, it's okay. But you would put those in a ripening box. You wouldn't leave them with the rest of the family food. Also, if you did Parmesan, try and put it in the warmest part of the fridge. So most fridges usually have a warm part. You're going to have to get a thermometer and check that out and see what you can do there. So I would also either vac pack the Parmesan or I would wax the Parmesan, being only a small amount. Not like the massive big 40-kilo wheels you get out of the Parmigiano region in Italy. Yours will dry out if you keep it in the fridge, or even a cheese fridge. So hopefully that's helped answer your question. Thank you very much for being inspired by the YouTube videos. There's quite a few of them now. And as I mentioned before, there's going to be a few more. Okay, the next question is from Chris. And Chris says, "Hi there, I'm interested in buying your Camembert cheese making kit and wondering if the ingredients within have an expiry period. I can't see myself making the amount of cheese that the ingredients cater for in such a short period of time." Well, thanks, Chris, for your question. The ingredients in the kit last for about 2 years if stored as muck. So the liquid rennet and the calcium chloride stored in the fridge, and the other cheese cultures are stored in the freezer. However, once you master Camembert, it takes a few goes, that's for sure. You want to make it all the time. It is that delicious once you get the hang of it. So thanks very much for your question, Chris. So the next one is from... This one's from Jeff. Jeff says, "I have a situation. I made Romana on the weekend, and as far as I can tell, everything went according to plan until the brining. The brine really caused the exterior of the cheese to soften and become creamy/slimy. I can't think of where I went wrong. Any ideas? Can it be saved? Any thoughts would be great. Thanks, Jeff." Well, Jeff, it can be saved. You just wipe the slime, which is kind of what it is, off with paper towel, and that's what I do, clean paper towel, before I learnt the magic ingredient to put into the brine, and allow it to air dry until it's touch dry, and then bung it into your cheese cave or wax it or vac pack, your choice. The question I had for Jeff was, did he add vinegar and calcium chloride to the brine, which prevents the sliming effect? And Jeff came back and said he said that, yes, he did add calcium chloride, but he didn't add any vinegar, so he's going to change that. And then he came back with another question. He said, questions everywhere. "I notice that your recipes often say that mesophilic or thermophilic starter is what you use. Is there a specific type that you use, one type of meso or thermo that you usually go with? Thanks again, Jeff." Yes, Jeff, what I usually use for most of my semi-hard cheeses are the ones that are ripened below 38 Celsius is an MO30 mesophilic from Sacco. That's spelled SACCO. And for the harder Italian cheeses and some of the Swiss cheeses, I use an MOT092 thermophilic, also from Sacco. Both of those are also available at our online store if you live in Australia, so you can pop over there and have a look. But yeah, they're good all-rounders. I wouldn't use the MO30 for softer cheeses. I have used MO30 for cream cheese, and I've also used it for feta. And look, it does have a sharper tang. It does have a higher acidic profile than maybe those cheeses should have. You would probably use an MO36 mesophilic by Sacco as well. That is a milder. It has less acid production, a milder culture for softer cheeses, and not as much acidic build-up. So it doesn't convert as much lactose into lactic acid. All right, thanks for your 2 questions, Jeff. Moving right along. Oh, that's Jeff's question again. We'll get rid of that. This one is from Ryan, and Ryan says, "Thanks for the great site, Gavin, YouTube videos and podcast. Just to clarify, do we leave the feta in the brine out of the fridge for 2 days and then in the fridge for 3 to 4 days? The video was a little confusing near the end. Thanks, Ryan in Victoria, Canada." Well, thanks, Ryan, for your email. Yeah, it probably was a little bit funny at the end. I just popped the feta into the brine, and the brine recipe is over on Little Green Cheese, or it's in my my ebook, Keep Calm and Make Cheese. That's also on the site as well. And I pop it straight into the fridge. Look, it doesn't really matter with feta. It absorbs salt over the time, and the longer you leave it in there, the more salt it's going to absorb, of course, the saltier the feta. And I don't mind a good salty feta. It's quite nice. If you decide to take it out of the brine, one of the options is that you can vacuum pack the feta, cut it into blocks and vacuum pack it, and that'll slow down that'll stop the saltiness. And you can pop over to my blog, Little Green Cheese, as well. And there's actually a low salt brine on how to do feta, though. One of the readers wrote in, and I popped that recipe up on the blog, and apparently it works really well. I haven't tried it yet, but it is for a low salt type brine, and it's really good for feta, apparently. Anyway, thanks, Ryan. Thanks for your question. Okay, the next question is from Alison. Bit of a long one, but I'll read it out. I'm not sure where Alison's from, but Alison says, "Hi, Gavin. I've just recently found your podcast, began making cheese several months ago, and have made feta, ricotta salata, marinated feta, and mozzarella. My son started making butter this week and decided that he is now the chief butter maker." Good on you, Alison. That's fabulous. The main reason I haven't ventured much further is due to not having something suitable for a cheese cave. It looks like I now have been able to source a pharmaceutical fridge. These can be programmed to work in certain ranges, plus, minus. It would probably only cost me a slab of beer, as it has been in the back of the warehouse of my husband's work for several years. It is secondhand, and hopefully it still works. As soon as it's tested, I'll order a press and some other equipment. Thanks for a great podcast. I'm working my way through the back episodes at the moment. Well, firstly, Alison, thank you very much for your question, and thanks for listening to the podcast. Hopefully you've got through the whole back catalogue of season 1. And to answer your specific question, yes, you can use a pharmaceutical fridge. All you have to do is get the humidity up in it if you are going to do cheeses without waxing or vacuum sealing. You will have to get the humidity up. You can use, like I do in my cheese fridge, I put a container of water down the bottom. I throw a big sponge into it, and the sponge helps evaporate the water and increases the humidity. It only increases the humidity up to about 75 to 80% relative humidity. If you need it higher than that, then use a ripening box. Ripening box is best used for mold ripened cheeses like Camembert, Brie, Stilton, all the other blues, Gorgonzola, that sort of mold ripened cheeses. They work best for that, and all it is a Tupperware container type thing that has a base, a rack on the bottom so the cheese doesn't sit in its own way, and it can drain freely, and a lid on top. And some have a little pop top, a little circle in the middle. You can release a little bit of moisture. That helps get the humidity down to about 85%. If you have it closed, that little pop top thing, it gets up to about 90-95% humidity. So depending on the type of cheese you're making is what you can do. But yeah, pharmaceutical fridge, if it worked, fantastic, and you'll have a lovely cheese cave there. Thanks for your question, Alison. Okay, next question is from John, and John looks like he's from New Zealand. John says, "Hi, Gavin. Really enjoy your podcast and look forward to each show. I have a question regarding relative humidity in the converted cheese fridge. I have the temperature set at 12 degrees Celsius, but even with 3 trays of water, the humidity will not pass 37%. The door on the converter fridge has a small vent to allow air movement. Should this be closed off? I have changed the temperature from 8 to 14 with very little change in humidity reading. Any suggestions on how I can achieve this higher to 80 to 90 required for some cheeses?" Well, yes, John, you're going to have to close off that hole. The fridge shouldn't have any. It should be able to build up humidity inside it without any airflow. A lot of fridges don't have airflow. Some of the newer ones do, though. They have a little fan in there pushing the cold air around. Something as simple as a bar fridge. If you've got one of those, I think that's probably what it sounds like you've got. Then close off any holes. It's got to be sealed, basically. Those sort of bar fridge things just have a little freezer component at the top. That's what the refrigerant goes through, and that's what cools down the fridge. So, yeah, you can't have any holes in it. That's why the moisture's escaping. So try and close off those. And if all else fails, then use a ripening box for your cheeses, and that'll get the humidity up. Or basically vacuum pack or wax it. And you won't need the humidity as high if it's wax, because waxed is not a total seal. So you will need to have a little bit of moisture in the fridge, but 37% is certainly not high enough. But yeah, try and get it up a little bit higher if you can and block off any holes. So hopefully that helps out, John, and thanks for listening to the show as often as you do. Okay, I have another question here. This one's from Jeffrey, and Jeffrey, I think, might be in the US. He has a company called Dorset Connects. And Jeffrey asked, haven't seen much of you on this. I think he's referring to the blog. Wanted to check in to make sure everything is good. Enjoy the holiday. Also was interested in your ebook. I am in the US and wondering if temperatures are going to be in Fahrenheit as well as Celsius. I'm happy to work with grams, but the temperatures are much more difficult for me. Please let me know. Well, Jeffrey, I am alive and well, as this episode attests. Thank you very much for asking. I did send Jeffrey a separate email because it sounded like he was a bit concerned. I was just kicking back next to the swimming pool. I am a bit poor of time of late, helping wife start an online business. As I explained at the start of the show, I'll be getting back into cheese making and podcasting this month, and here I am. Yeah, to answer Jeffrey's question, the recipes in the book are listed in both metric and US imperial or US gallons, whatever they call it over there. So all temperatures are in Fahrenheit as well as Celsius. All weights and measures are in pounds, ounces, grams and kilograms. So hopefully that helps anybody who was thinking of grabbing the book. Then, yeah, you certainly do so. For those of you who are in Australia, just while we're on that, thank you, Jeffrey, for your question. Just while we're on books, I have made a printed version of the Keep Calm and Make Cheese book. So I've fancied up the ebook version, made it into a print version, which I make here myself, and they are available for sale in the online store. They're a little bit more expensive, obviously, because I've got to use paper and I've got to use binding and all that sort of stuff. All the photos are in colour, and the book works out to be at 98 pages long, including the cover. So, yeah, that's available over at littlegreenworkshops.com.au, and you can check it. There's a book section and go and have a look there. But thanks, Jeffrey, for your question. Now, we've got a few more. This one's from Jeff, and I think Jeff's from Canada. Oh, it's Jeff and Marlene. Sorry, it's a husband and wife team. Hello, Gavin. Tonight, my girlfriend. Oh, it's girlfriend. Sorry, not wife. Probably wife now, seeing I've taken so long at recording the season 2. Anyway, tonight, my girlfriend and I attempted your halloumi recipe, and we had sort of success. I would describe our result as half halloumi. Everything seemed like it was working according to plan, but after pressing, the blocks were quite crumbly. After putting them back in the whey, they floated almost immediately and then mostly crumbled apart. We were able to salvage a few and fry them up. Although they are not really squeaky like they should be, they were very brittle. We used 4 litres of cow's milk and 4 litres of goat's milk. We put in rennet, calcium chloride as instructed, as they were homogenised. The only thing we did slightly different, your recipe was that after 40 minutes we left the pot on the double boiler, and so when it came to slightly heat the curds back up to 40 degrees over 20 minutes, the temperature was already there. And that we did everything instructed. We definitely want to try again. Perhaps you can give us some insight into why this batch failed. Now, I did reply back to Jeff, and I said, was any of the milk ultra-pasteurised? It sounds like this may be the case. If not, just try again with cow's milk only without the goat's milk, and try and not use ultra-pasteurised if you can. Now, they did send some photos through, and it looked like it was during the heating period over the 20 minutes, you definitely need to take it from that lower temperatures up to 40 degrees, and that's when it starts to float, right? And you really need that, because what that does, that hardens the halloumi, and you can then at the end, and it gets really, well, it doesn't get runny, it gets softer, and then you can fold it over and put salt and the mint flakes over the top, and it tastes lovely. So look, there's a couple of suggestions, Jeff. Hopefully you've tried it again and had some success. I'd love to hear from you. And what I'll do, I'll pop those photographs into the show notes with this episode as well. So thanks for sharing that. Okay, I've answered that one. Sorry, I've had a couple up here. And lucky last. This one is from Raluca, spelled Raluca. Raluca is from Shundahai Farm in CT, Mansfield, CT, Connecticut, I think, maybe. Not sure about the abbreviations for US states. I'm sorry about that if I got it wrong. It says, Dear Gavin, thank you for the wonderful cheese-making tutorials you present on YouTube. I am a vegetable farmer, but also milk my own cow and have been making cheeses for my family. I have only been making cheese for about a year now, so I still have so much to learn. I'm wondering if you could help me, please, with the following question. What are the benefits/drawbacks of vacuum sealing versus waxing during the aging process? Although I try and stay away from plastic, I do have a vacuum sealer, and I have used it for aging cheddar and now trying it on Parmesan. I find it is more convenient than waxing, and the cheddar I vacuum sealed came out tasting fine. I waxed my cheddar only once, and I was not set up right because the wax went on unevenly. Just wondering if you think one method is better than the other, and why. Thanks in advance, Raluca. Well, Raluca, I think that I don't really have a preference. When I think about it, I've waxed cheeses and I've vacuum sealed them, and both have come out fine. Sometimes when you do wax cheese, though, you miss a bit, and mold gets under the wax, and unfortunately it can give an inconsistent or the wrong flavour to your cheese. So, it could get infected with a blue mold, and you're trying to make a cheddar or something like that. And I've had that before, and I've actually serendipitously created a farmhouse cheddar blue that way, and have managed to repeat it. So, and it turned out quite well. But mistakes aside, if you are unsure about waxing and having a bit of trouble with keeping the wax on, there's a product, a PVC type liquid wax that you can paint onto your cheese first. I don't think it's really PVC, but it's a liquid sort of wax, and then you wax it with the red or black wax that you melt in a double boiler and dip your cheese wheel into. That's one solution. The other way, obviously, vac packing. There is no issue with vac packing. So much cheese is vac packed these days for maturing. It doesn't really matter. I don't think the taste is any different. I think it tastes just as good. In fact, I've got a Parmesan and a Romano in the cheese fridge that are nearly coming up to 18 months old, and they're still vac packed, and they still look as fresh as the day I vac packed them after I dried them. And there is no build up of whey or moisture that's leaked out. And I turn them every week, just top to bottom, just to make sure that that moisture distributes evenly during the aging of the cheese. Look, I don't have an issue. The only downside, obviously, is that you've got to use plastic for the vac packer, the vacuum sealer, and it's a once use only, because if you try and you can wash it. I have washed them before and resealed cheeses, but I would never do that to give away to friends or anything like that. I'd use fresh sanitized plastic, so wouldn't have any problem with that. But yeah, and the plastic is, as far as I can tell, it's not recyclable, so that's a bit of an issue too, because I'm a bit of a closet greenie. Not a closet, I'm well out of the closet as far as being green is. If you're going to have a look at my other podcast, my other blog called The Greening of Gavin. Anyway, so I don't particularly like the plastic too much. I try and reuse it where I can, but I wash it thoroughly, and I then spray it with vinegar, and I even use a little bit of a bleach, or a very weak bleach solution, and then I'll reuse the plastic. But It is, unfortunately, I don't think you can recycle it in curbside recycling and all that sort of stuff. So that's the downside of vac packing. The upside is you can keep it contamination free more readily than you can with waxing. But look, I don't mind doing old school waxing. I'd rather wax a Colby than vac pack it. I don't know. It just seems to have a different texture at the end, but all the rest of the cheeses I don't have too many problems at all with. Thanks very much, Raluca, for your question, and hopefully I've answered that okay. Well, it's a lot longer than what I thought the episode would be, but I managed to get through all those questions. I actually have a couple more in my inbox that I haven't managed to get to this week, but I promise you I'll get to them in the next episode. But until that time, make sure that if you've got any questions, then send through a voicemail. I really appreciate voicemails. It stops me from going hoarse, and you can leave a concise little message or question there, and I can play those and answer those as well. As you can see, I'm starting to go hoarse from those 12, 13 questions odd via email. Look, don't get me wrong, I still appreciate the email questions, but if you'd like to hear your own voice on the podcast, that would be fantastic. Like I said, just go to the SpeakPipe widget on littlegreencheese.com and record your message, and just make sure you play it back before you hit the send button, so the audio quality, make sure it's not in a really noisy room. I find it very hard to clean the audio up if I need to do that to put it into the podcast episode. But thanks, everybody. So for upcoming workshop dates and recipes, you can find those over at littlegreencheese.com. You can also find my ebook, Keep Calm and Make Cheese, A Beginner's Guide to Cheese Making at Home. That's available in all ebook formats. And you can also find that over at the blog. You can also find that exclusively in paper over at littlegreenworkshops.com.au. If you pop over to YouTube, you can also find all my YouTube video tutorials. There are many, many of them, and they have helped so many hundreds, if not thousands of people to make cheese in their own home. Thanks for listening, Curd Nerds, and stay tuned for the next episode of the Little Green Cheese podcast. During this podcast, you heard royalty-free music by Kevin MacLeod. I played Malt Shop Bop and Call to the Dairy Cows.